Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rami Alijil. I'm the CEO of People Processes, and you're listening to Don't HR Alone. Today, we're talking about the proposed regulations list on the no tax on tips occupations under the one big beautiful bill. So, if you've seen our prior episode on the no tax on tips and no tax on overtimes, hopefully you have a decent understanding of this. One thing we were waiting on is the list of occupations that qualify. See, all tips don't automatically qualify. The law stated that it's only those that historically had a history of accepting tips and it being a significant portion of their revenue. So you can't just suddenly set up a law firm and be like, hey, pay me in tips, right? You never tip your lawyer. Anyway, probably your HR guy too. I haven't seen him tip ever. So that Department of Treasury and the IRS have provided guidance on that no tax on tips. The proposed regulations identify certain occupations that customarily and regularly receive tips and define qualified tips that the taxpayers can claim as a deduction. The proposed regulations list nearly 70 separate occupations of tipped workers, from bartenders to water taxi operators. There's a 30-day comment period from the public that you can make at regulations.gov if your occupation is missing, so worth checking out. So let's talk about the 8 categories. They made a whole new thing called the Tipped Occupation Code, TPC. It's a 3-digit code, and it gives a description for the occupations listed within that proposed regulation. The 100s are beverage and food, 200s are entertainment and events, 300s are hospitality and guest services, 400s are home services, 500s are personal services, 600s are personal appearance and wellness, 700 recreation and instruction, and 800s transportation and delivery. We're going to go through some of the key pieces in there that are surprising in just a minute. But first, I want to remind you on that definition of qualified tips. In order to claim the deduction, a worker must be in an occupation on the list and receive qualified tips. What is a qualified tip? Here's the definition of qualified and not qualified. Qualified must be paid in cash or equivalent medium, such as check, credit card, debit card, gift card, tangible or intangible banker's tokens, that are readily exchangeable for a fixed amount of cash or another form of electronic settlement or mobile payment. It excludes digital assets. You can't get tipped in Bitcoin. Okay? Qualified tips must be received from customers or, in the case of an employee, through a mandatory or voluntary tip sharing agreement, such as a tip pool, which one of the questions was whether tip pool would count, and the answer is it does. Qualified tips must be paid voluntarily by the customer and not be subject to negotiation. You cannot push back. Qualified tips do not include most service charges. For instance, in the case of a restaurant that imposes an automatic 18% service charge for large parties and distributes that amount to waiters, busters, and kitchen staffs, if that charge is added with no option for the customer to disregard or modify, the amounts distributed to the worker from it are not qualified tips. Sure, there will be more information on that, but for now, what it's sounding like is you can put it as the default in the tip button, right? But they got to have an easy ability to put it to 0, knock it up to 25, okay? So that's going to be a big change for a lot of these automatic guaranteed gratuity places. And of course, it cannot be received for any illegal activity, prostitution, or pornographic activity. That is not a qualified tip. They have a specific regulation on that. All right, so now you know what a tip is. Let's talk about who qualifies. What is the actual pieces that go into it? And this is really important because you got to be one of these occupation titles. So first, the 100s, the ones you expect. Bartenders, waitstaff, food services, dining room and cafeteria attendants, chefs, food prep, fast food counters, dishwashers, host staffs, bakers. Okay, they're all qualified. Common. Bakers being on there, not always wasn't necessarily expected, so that's good. 200s, entertainment and events. Gambling dealers, change persons and booth cashiers, cage workers, sports books writers, dancers, musicians and singers, disc jockeys, except for radio, entertainment and performers, digital content creators, ushers, lobby attendants, ticket takers, locker room, coat room, and dressing room attendants. If you're in the entertainment space and not one of those, you don't get to qualify your tips. 300, hospitality and guest services. Baggage, porters and bellhops, concierge, hotel, motel, and resort desk clerks, and maid and housekeeping. Okay? Maintenance staff, not on here. Not normally tipped, but just a good thing to know. This is where we get interesting because we get to pieces that aren't as commonly tipped, but come up. Home services, home maintenance and repair workers, home landscaping and groundskeeping workers, home electricians, plumbers, HVAC, appliance installers, cleaning service workers, locksmiths, and roadside assistance workers are all specifically named as being able to accept tips, even though, for example, plumbers, as a rule, are only tipped around 0.2% of the time. But, for example, home appliance installers, only 1.9% of their historical compensation has ever come from tips, supposedly, and yet they're on the list. So for those of you running home services businesses, this is very interesting. It may be more common to allow tipping on your HVAC invoice. Pretty cool. Personal services, private event planners, private event and portrait photographers, videographers, event officiants, pet caretakers, tutors, nannies, babysitters, they're all qualified. In the 600s, appearance and wellness, we have skincare specialists, massage, barbers, hairdressers, hairstylists, cosmetologists, shampooers, manicurists, pedicurists, makeup artists, exercise trainers, tattoo artists, tailors, shoe and leather workers, eyebrow threading and waxing techs. Okay. Recreation and instruction, we got golf caddies, self-enrichment teachers, sports and rec instructors, tour guides, travel guides, recreation, and tour pilots. All are qualified. Transportation and deliveries, the last section in the 800s, and that's parking and valet, taxi and rideshare, shuttle drivers, goods delivery people, personal vacation and equipment cleaners, private and charter bus, water taxi operators, rickshaw, pedicab, and carriage drivers, and home movers. Those are all named occupations. If your occupation was not named in this video, you do not qualify for tips, according to this. Do not change up your company structure so you can start collecting them. There is a 30-day comment period, and down below, I'll leave a link to regulations.gov where you can see both this list, but also, comment if you feel like you should be on there. We'll include this as a downloadable. If you have any questions, please check it out. If you're a US-based business owner with more than 10 employees and want to have a 30-minute conversation with me about how to structure this, be more than happy to do it. Keep in mind, tips and overtime premium have now become tax something you need to put on the W-2 in a particular way in order for your employees to be able to claim these deductions. It's a big deal. By the way, side note, if you're a salon owner, you now qualify for an additional tax deduction called the FICA Employer Tax Credit, which restaurants qualified for before this, but it's another one of those kind of minor changes. So there's a lot to this bill. Please book some time with me, 30 minutes, and we can chat through it, see if there's anything we can do to help you out. Also, just pick my brain and see if there's anything I can do to get you in the right direction. Thanks for tuning in. Again, my name is Rami Alijil, and I appreciate you coming to Don't HR Alone. Now it's time for you to go out there, have a great day, and get your work done.